You've probably noticed this. Two people can be in the exact same relationship, doing the exact same things, and yet one couple feels deeply connected, satisfied, energized, and the other feels like something is missing, not broken, just not fully there. Like the experience is happening, but the intensity isn't. The connection isn't. The pleasure isn't reaching its full potential. And here's the truth most people never hear explained properly. Great intimacy is not something that just happens. It's something that's built, layer by layer, awareness by awareness, choice by choice. I'm Dr. Elena Hart, and welcome back to Dr. Elena Hart, Sexual Health and Wellness. And today, we're going to go deeper than surface-level advice, because I'm not just going to give you random tips. I'm going to show you how to completely shift the way you experience intimacy so that it becomes more connected, more intentional, and yes, more pleasurable. Now, let's start with something that sounds simple, but is actually the foundation of everything: communication. And I know you've heard this before. Everyone says it. Just communicate. But almost nobody explains how to actually do it in a way that works. Because here's what usually happens. People either avoid it completely, or they bring it up at the worst possible moment, right before intimacy, right after intimacy, or during a moment where emotions are already high. And what does that do? It creates pressure, awkwardness, sometimes even insecurity. So instead of building connection, it shuts things down. Real communication doesn't happen in the heat of the moment. It happens outside of it, in a relaxed space, when there's no pressure to perform, no expectation, just openness, maybe during a walk, maybe over a quiet meal. And here's the key shift. You don't make it about what's wrong. You make it about what you'd like to explore. Instead of saying, "This isn't working for me," you say, "I'd love to try more of this. What do you think?" That one shift changes everything, because now it's not criticism, it's collaboration. And when that door opens, everything else becomes easier. Now let's take this a step further, because communication alone is not enough. You also need exploration. And this is where most people stay stuck in routine. Same pattern, same sequence, same expectations. And over time, that predictability slowly reduces excitement, not because something is wrong, but because the brain craves novelty. Now here's where it gets interesting. Exploration doesn't mean doing something extreme. It means becoming curious again, curious about your partner, curious about yourself. Because most people don't actually know what they like. They only know what they've experienced so far. And those are not the same thing. So instead of assuming, you explore. Different types of touch, different pacing, different areas of the body, because pleasure is not limited to one place. It's distributed. And often, the most powerful responses come from areas people completely ignore. The neck, the inner arms, the lower back, the way someone breathes near you. These things matter more than most people realize. Now here's something important. Exploration requires feedback, and feedback requires safety, which means you don't take things personally. If your partner says, "That doesn't feel great," that's not rejection, that's guidance. And when you treat it that way, you improve faster. Now let's talk about something that changes everything. But almost nobody gives it the attention it deserves: foreplay. And not just in the physical sense, but in the psychological sense, because arousal doesn't start in the body, it starts in the mind. And for many people, especially women, that process takes time, sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes longer. And if that time is skipped, the body isn't fully ready, which changes the entire experience. So slowing down is not a delay. It's an investment. It builds anticipation, connection, intensity, and when you allow that buildup to happen, the outcome becomes completely different. Now here's another layer most people overlook: the environment. Your body responds differently depending on how safe, relaxed, and present it feels. If you're stressed, distracted, thinking about work, your nervous system is not in the right state, and when that happens, arousal becomes harder, pleasure becomes muted. So before intimacy even begins, you want to shift your state. Relaxation, breathing, being present, even something as simple as slowing down your breath, can change how your body responds, because now you're not in performance mode, you're in experience mode, and that's where real pleasure lives. Now let's talk about something that might challenge how you think: scheduling intimacy. And I know, at first that sounds unexciting, almost mechanical, but in reality, it creates anticipation. It creates intention, because spontaneous desire doesn't always show up consistently, especially in long-term relationships, but responsive desire does, which means when you create the space, the desire often follows, and something else happens. You prepare differently, you show up differently, you become more aware, and that alone changes the experience. Now let's go deeper into something even more powerful: presence, because you can be physically there and mentally somewhere else, thinking about your phone, your tasks, your responsibilities. And when that happens, you miss everything: the sensations, the connection, the subtle moments that actually create pleasure. So here's the shift. Instead of letting your mind wander, you bring it back again and again to what you feel, to what you hear, to what's happening right now. And the more you do that, the more intense everything becomes, because attention amplifies sensation. Now here's something most people don't expect. Your physical health plays a huge role. Energy levels, circulation, hormonal balance, all of it connects, which means things like movement, exercise, even light activity can directly improve your experience, not just physically, but mentally, because your body feels more responsive, more alive, more capable, and that confidence carries into everything else. Now let's bring this all together, because none of these things work in isolation. They stack. Communication builds understanding, exploration builds excitement, foreplay builds anticipation, relaxation builds readiness, scheduling builds intention, presence builds intensity, and physical health supports all of it. And when you combine them, something shifts. Intimacy stops being routine and starts becoming something you actually experience fully. Not rushed, not distracted, not half present, but real, connected, engaging. And that's where the difference is. Because pleasure is not just physical, it's psychological, emotional, neurological. And when all those systems align, that's when everything changes. So instead of asking, how do I get more pleasure? Start asking, how do I become more present, more aware, more connected? Because that's the real shift. And once you understand that, you don't just improve one moment, you transform the entire experience. And if this changed the way you see intimacy even slightly, stay with me. Because next, we're going to go deeper into something most people completely overlook: how your mind, your expectations, and your internal patterns quietly shape everything you feel.